We've all been taught to misunderstand what tears truly mean. Consider this for a moment. We exist in a society that often defines strength as stillness, the unshakable voice, the unwavering gaze, the seamless facade that never cracks. Yet, there are individuals among us whose emotions seem to live right at the surface. A poignant song lyric, a moment of profound kindness in a film. The simple beauty of a sunset for them, these aren't just observed. They're felt deeply and immediately. And this responsiveness often comes with a silent, judgmental question from the world. What's your problem? But what if we've been reading the entire situation backwards? What if the capacity for easy tears isn't a shortcoming, but a sophisticated form of emotional clarity that most adults have been conditioned to lose? It's simple to label this as fragility. Our collective narrative praises the stoic. Keep calm, carry on, don't let them see it hurt. But beneath that cultural script lies a complex and beautiful truth about human sensitivity, connection, and what we sacrifice when we build walls around our hearts. For these individuals, weeping isn't a system failure. It's evidence of a system operating at full capacity. It's a signal that their inner world remains vibrantly connected to the outer world, refusing to engage in the emotional numbing that modern life subtly encourages. We are trained to compartmentalize, to delay our reactions, to smile through the ache. Those who cry readily, they never downloaded that update. Their emotional feedback loop is shorter, more direct. They experience and they express. And in an environment that often values performance over authenticity, that is a quietly revolutionary act. Psychological research points to something remarkable. A propensity for tears is frequently linked to elevated sensory processing depth. This isn't about being overly dramatic. It's about having a neurological framework that perceives emotional textures with higher definition. The subtle strain in a loved one's laugh, the hidden weight in a room after an argument, the layered history behind a simple gesture. They sense these nuances. In essence, they aren't falling apart. They are profoundly tuned in. And in a world walking around in an emotional fog, that awareness is a superpower. Let's be real. Most of us have constructed elaborate internal defenses. From a young age, many heard that crying was for children, that maturity meant keeping a stiff upper lip. So we master the art of the internal swallow. We hide in bathroom stalls. We choke it back until we're alone in the car. We learn to treat our own tears as a secret, a shame, something we murmur sorry for. But for the easily moved, that gatekeeping isn't an option. The feeling arrives, and the physical response is already in motion. And this is the crucial insight. Easy crying isn't about a lack of discipline. It's about an inability to falsely narrate your own emotional state. There's a term for this: precision, emotional granularity. It describes the skill of discerning and naming specific emotional states. Studies indicate that those who tear up more often tend to excel at this. They don't just feel bad. They can identify the exact shade, its sorrow, or its empathy, or its bittersweet longing, or its awe. They navigate the full, rich palette of human feeling. And sometimes, the cup simply overflows. Tears become the body's release valve for experiences too dense for language. So when someone cries at a commercial, they aren't being silly. They are participating in a moment with an honesty that many have forgotten. Often, these tears aren't born from sadness at all, but from an encounter with sheer, undiluted beauty. An old couple holding hands, a piece of music that unlocks a forgotten memory, an act of unconditional generosity. These aren't droplets of weakness. They are tears of resonance. The spirit recognizing a touch of truth and responding before the mind can interfere. Perhaps this is the core purpose of the sensitive soul, to resist desensitization, to remain porous in a world that pressures you to become impermeable. But here's a critical distinction. Crying frequently does not equate to crumbling constantly. It doesn't imply instability. Frequently, it signifies the exact opposite. It means you have developed a healthy, real-time processing method instead of stockpiling stress until you explode. Physiologically, tears are a regulatory tool. They help reduce stress hormones and stimulate chemicals that promote calm and bonding. In plain terms, someone who cries is engaging in on-the-spot self-maintenance. They aren't failing at emotional control. They are skillfully managing their inner ecosystem. Think about it. When was the last time you allowed yourself to genuinely weep without a layer of self-judgment? That instant, unedited reaction isn't a glitch. It's a form of courage. It's choosing to be seen in a vulnerable state while others are carefully curating their composure. And when someone does that, they aren't asking to be rescued. They are, whether they know it or not, extending an invitation. An invitation for others to also drop the pretense and feel. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's your finest antenna. Of course, the story has another layer. For some, ready tears are tied to a history of pain, to a nervous system that has been wired to be on high alert. Psychologists call this heightened reactivity. When the body's emotional thresholds are set very low, even minor triggers can cause an overflow. This reality deserves deep compassion and understanding. Yet even here, the tears themselves are not the enemy. They are the messenger, the body's way of communicating a backlog of unprocessed experience. Sometimes people cry because they've been the pillar for too long, the one who never bends, never asks, never shows strain. Then one Tuesday, they can't find their keys, and the whole dam breaks. It was never about the keys. There's a philosophical weight to this immediacy. In a culture chanting "keep it together," choosing to let tears fall is a silent act of defiance. It states, "I will not pretend." It rejects the performance of okayness when the internal reality is different. And in that rejection lies a potent authenticity our world is starving for. We've built social ecosystems where "I'm fine" is the default, even when we're not. The person who cries shatters that collective fiction simply by being real. Herein lies the paradox. Society claims tears mean you're losing your grip, but emotional wisdom understands that suppressing them is what ultimately makes you lose your footing. Stifled feelings don't vanish. They transform. They become chronic worry, uncharacteristic anger, or physical ailments. So, to cry is to practice preventative mental health care. It's venting steam to prevent a boiler explosion. That isn't fragility. That's foresight. The asylee moved individual inhabits this space intuitively. They don't warehouse their hurt in muscle tension or silent resentment. They allow it a pathway out. They operate on the principle that emotions are meant for movement, not storage. And while this might seem delicate to an outside observer, it often masks a formidable inner resilience. It takes monumental strength to feel the full spectrum and still choose to engage with the world. To remain tender instead of turning to stone. To weep and still believe in goodness. This is also about radical self-honesty. When your emotions have a direct line to your eyes, you cannot hide from yourself. They surface without permission, demanding acknowledgement. This forces a level of self-knowledge that others might spend years in therapy to achieve. You become fluent in your own emotional language. You learn your boundaries, your values, your non-negotiables, because your body delivers the memos instantly. That's not being unstable. That's being emotionally literate, and is a critical form of intelligence. These individuals experience existence in high definition, carrying both its splendor and its sorrow with open hands. They don't require hardening. They warrant understanding, because their tears aren't a distress signal. Tears are the proof you haven't gone numb. And perhaps, in a time so frightened of raw feeling, this openness is not a liability but a contribution. A living reminder that it's human to be affected. That perceptiveness isn't a phase to be outgrown. That sometimes the most powerful stance is to allow yourself to be split open by experience, trusting you will reassemble whole. Ever notice the physical cost of stopping tears? Your jaw locks, your temples pound, your chest becomes a vault of pressure. Your biology knows what it needs, and you're declaring war on it. People who cry easily have often signed a peace treaty with their own nature. They've learned to honor their tears as a natural function, like a sigh or a shiver. There's a profound dignity in that acceptance, in letting your composure dissolve without an apology. That's the antithesis of weakness. It's the bravery of authenticity in a marketplace of masks. Furthermore, science suggests that those prone to tears often score lower on tests for alexithymia, the difficulty in recognizing and articulating emotions. They don't just feel, they comprehend. And that comprehension makes them exceptional companions in times of trouble. They know how to sit with someone in pain because they've visited those depths themselves. They understand that tears don't always need solutions. They often just need a witness. Now, envision someone who owns this trait, who doesn't see their sensitivity as a defect. That isn't fragility, it's liberation. It requires immense self-acceptance to cry in a public space and not be consumed by shame. To let the streaks fall and still hold your head high. They cultivate a dynamic resilience, not in spite of their emotional flow, but because of it. They process in the present moment. They don't drag yesterday's sorrow into tomorrow. They release, and they reset. And intriguingly, data indicates that regular criers can have better long-term psychological health outcomes than perpetual suppressors. When feelings have an exit route, they don't stagnate and mutate into depression or detached numbness. They pass through like a storm, leaving clearer skies behind. Perhaps that's genuine fortitude, not the power to contain the ocean within, but the wisdom to let the tide come in and go out. Admittedly, living this way isn't always graceful. You might tear up in a meeting and feel exposed. You might cry during a disagreement and feel disempowered. There's a subtle, persistent embarrassment that can attach itself to being the one who always cries. You might wonder if you're simply too much, but that internalized doubt is where the harm resides. Not in the tears, but in the belief they diminish you. The truth. People who are worth your energy won't see your tears as a deficit. They'll interpret them as trust, as intimacy, as evidence you've retained a connection to your humanity that is both rare and genuine. Because in an age of filters and facades, someone who cries is someone who is real, and realness is compelling. Realness is medicinal. Realness gives everyone else tacit permission to shed their own armor. There's a gentle rebellion in that honesty. When the whole room is insisting I'm fine, and you're the one with glossy eyes, you become a mirror. You reflect the unacknowledged emotional reality back at them. That can make people uneasy. Not because you're wrong, but because you're reminding them of what they've learned to bury. Your emotional transparency offers them a permission slip they aren't ready to use. And sometimes, they might criticize you for it. Label you as too intense. But here's what they're missing. You aren't excessive. You are complete. You are what happens when a person refuses to sever the connection to their core. You are honesty, unpasteurized. And if that makes others uncomfortable, that is their work to do, not yours. You do not owe the world your detachment. You do not owe anyone a diluted version of your soul. Your tears belong to you, and they are valid. Every single one. With time, a beautiful realization often dawns. Your profound sensitivity is also the source of your unique strengths. You notice subtleties others overlook. You build bonds that are deep and enduring. You create, appreciate, and love with a fullness that is your signature. All of this springs from the same well as your tears. You cannot compartmentalize your sensitivity from your gifts. They are intertwined. So the next time you feel that familiar prickling in your eyes, don't fight it. Don't condemn it. Lean into it. And if you see someone else crying, don't rush to fix it or look away. Just be present. Their tears aren't a malfunction to correct. They are a dialect of the heart, spoken when words are insufficient. And if you listen closely, they whisper the most vital message of all. I am here. I am feeling. I am alive. And in a world that often encourages us to play it safe and feel nothing, that vibrant, tear-streaked aliveness isn't a sign of breaking down. It's the ultimate sign of showing up. And if this perspective resonated with you, help Mind Explained reach others who need to hear it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It truly makes a difference.